On this episode of the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show, we're talking buyer beware, what to look out for before putting a contract on the home, and now to the show.
Welcome to the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show, where we bring you insights into the local Central Virginia real estate market, go in depth to answer your real estate questions and concerns, and interview local figures and influencers in the greater Richmond area. And now let's get to the latest episode with your host, Chris Elliott, and co-host, Maddie Ray.
Very excited for today's podcast. I have a special guest and friend, Mr. Gary Duda. He is the principal broker, owner of REMAX Action in both Glen Ellen, Virginia, and Charlottesville, two offices, that is. He has been a licensed agent since 1995, a broker since 2001. He has personally sold over 1,500 plus homes, plus probably another few 100,000 that he's helped negotiate with agents in his companies. He is a licensed instructor and real estate course author, taught thousands of Virginia realtors classes on topics working with buyers, sellers, contracts, ethics, etc. He is a husband of one, father to three. Mr. Gary Duda, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much.
This is going to be a very special show. I'm excited.
Well, I am too. I've never been on a podcast. I'm a rookie. I mean, this is my first podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. And this goes on something called the internet? No.
Onto the internet. Also onto the social mediums, if you've heard. So this is pretty cool because when you started your career, like you guys had to ride your horse out to the house, you had to tie it up front, had to unwind the scroll with the feather pen, or was it still chiseling contracts into stone at that time?
No, the stone had gone away a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Before it was pretty much feathers and dipping them in ink.
You got in right after the dinosaurs died. Right?
I did. Dinosaurs died and they were becoming oil.
Yeah.
So that's why now you have a car. So,
yeah. Awesome. I'm going to get railed after this podcast.
I'm going
to have fun while we're doing it. Gary's also our landlord of our podcast space, so I got to be careful I don't say anything too stupid.
That's all right. So.
Yeah. Gary, what are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about working with buyers, and this is your podcast, so this is your dinner. We're going to cook it up the way you want, but we're working with buyers, how to effectively negotiate buyers, how to take buyers through the process. And really what we're doing, Chris, is kind of I teach agents all sorts of topics, as you mentioned, how to work with buyers, how to work with sellers. Buyers and sellers have different goals in a transaction. And so we specifically train our agents on how to work with the buyer. And today we're going to talk a little bit of what that training is and how this is beneficial to the buyer that they listen in, because the things we'll talk about, buyers can take anywhere. If they're working with one of us, great. Or if they're going to not work with one of us, the things we'll talk about today make them a more savvy buyer. That means they're going to have a better purchase and hopefully a better home ownership experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason we wanted to bring Gary on the podcast and why we're excited to go through this content is I will say Gary does an amazing job training agents as far as how to be better agents, what they should be looking out for, both for themselves and also, more importantly for their clients. So what we wanted to go through today is kind of what you teach your agents and what I've learned from you and gleaned from you as far as how to effectively work with buyers, so that if you're out there, of course, we would love for you to work with us, but even if you choose not to, or if you're in a different area, here's the things that you should be on the lookout for. Here's the things your agent should be going through with you. And even if they are not trained to this level or they don't go through it with you, at least you know the right questions to ask. You know the things that they should be looking out for. Gary, talk to me about the training a good realtor needs before working with agents.
Well, there's so much to a real estate transaction. So agents need to really kind of be the jack of all trades. They need to have mortgage background. They don't have to be the mortgage expert, but they have to be able to triage the client to know, hey, here's the lender that they need to get to. Do they have credit issues? Do they have low down payment? There's so many different mortgage programs out there that agents need to be on the lookout for things with their buyers. Is there loan money out there that maybe they can get in with the lender who has not loan money, but grant money?
Grant money.
The other thing we talk about is agents understanding the whole process, and the whole process, the writing of the contract, what the contracts say. After teaching for years, it scares me how many agents don't understand the contract that they're using. And what a client signs in that contract is what they're agreeing to, whether the client's read it or not. So it's very important that the agents know the contract well enough to paraphrase it, so that the client, and to go over the major points and make it clear and understandable to the client. We're also talking about teaching agents what to look out for in homes. And this is something today we really want to talk a bit about, because it comes back to a checklist that we've created that we'll talk about. But, every home is not meant for every buyer. There are some homes that just need too much work, and agents need to be cognizant of the home that they're showing the buyer. Is this the house that this person should actually buy? Does this person have the resources to fix the things up that will need to be done after closing? Does this buyer have the cash, to hire somebody, or the handy enough to do it? So we'll talk more about that, and also just the whole closing process, everything. So we never want clients to be surprised in a transaction, and so we train agents so that they have specific skills to let their client know what's going to happen at every point throughout the transaction.
Yeah. What's funny is I remember when I first started working with you, you kind of made that joke of like most agents haven't read the contract, don't know what's in it. And I kind of took that as a little tongue in cheek, but the scary part is it's amazing how many agents we deal with. I mean, we joke about it, but how many agents we deal with on a daily basis that literally don't know their contract. And it's a template contract. It gets updated, but not every, maybe once a year, maybe once every other year. But it's scary to know how many agents are out there practicing real estate, helping people buy a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $700,000 home, and literally don't know what they're having their clients sign.
Yeah, it's one of the classes that I do, which it's explaining the contract paragraph by paragraph and giving the agent a handout of what every paragraph means. Whether or not as a buyer you understand that every paragraph is one thing, but as an agent, you need to understand every paragraph of that contract, and then all the forms, all the addendums that people use.
Yeah,
there's we're lucky as real estate agents in Virginia that we can write our own contracts. That's not the case in other states.
Sure.
And that's why we have the pre-printed contract, so that everybody knows what the rules are. Everybody's familiar with the document. And there are other, there's the local CVR MLS contract, there's the VAR contract, and there's other builder contracts, but you need to read it. I mean, there's just, first and foremost, read the contract. That's training 101 right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we can beat that one till we're till the cows come home. But anyway, Gary, talk to me about what specifically buyers need to be aware about as far as the condition of a home before they write a contract. Talk to me about that.
All right. So I recently did a new class for agents, and it's called How to Survive the Home Inspection Before It Even Begins. And people ask, well, what does that mean? Well, first part is buyers need to understand what they're agreeing to in the contract when we talk about defects.
Yeah.
Because our most contracts, including the local one that we use, states what a defect is. And it says that a buyer won't ask a seller to fix a defect, to fix something that's not defective. So what is a defect? Is a defect a 22-year-old roof with 20 years life on it that doesn't leak and is not broken? No, that's not defective. It's near the end of its life, but it's not defective.
Yeah.
Is a 5-year-old roof that leaks defective? Absolutely. So our contracts allow buyers to ask sellers to fix things that are defective. They don't allow the buyers to ask for cosmetic items or grandfathered items. So a house that was built in 1980 didn't have smoke detectors in every bedroom. Code today is that you have smoke detectors in every bedroom. So in a home inspection, you wouldn't ask the seller to put a smoke detector in every bedroom, unless, of course, there was alterations made to the house requiring a permit, and they added a room. Then it might be required for that room. So the first thing is helping buyers understand what they're agreeing to when they write a contract. The second thing is looking at that house objectively before you write. I did this little checklist here. I don't know if we should show it or not. I did this for agents, and it's really good for buyers as well.
Yeah.
It's a 22-point checklist, and it has the buyer or the agent go through 22 components of the house, assessing their age, whether they're an issue or not, and what the cost might be to address those issues. So, because if you're buying a house, really what you don't want to have happen is buy the house, go under contract, spend the money on appraisal and home inspection, only find at the home inspection that the roof needs to be replaced or that the HVAC is 25 years old. Those are things that agents and buyers can identify up front. And that's what the checklist does. It lets us take, if somebody's that interested in the house to make an offer, it lets us go through this checklist and evaluate the different parts of the home and sit down and go, okay, listen, how many items on this checklist are going to be issues? And what's that cost going to be? And are these things that we might be able to ask a seller to do? For instance, let's say the roof needs to be replaced. Why not just ask the seller to do that in the contract And rather than waiting to the home inspection, and then at the home inspection, the seller says, no, I'm not going to fix it. And the next thing you know, you're terminating the offer and your buyer is out $1,000 on home inspections and appraisals or more. Why not just get this up front in the contract so that if the seller says no, we move on to another house that doesn't need a roof and we saved our client a lot of money.
So break that down for me again. So I'm the buyer. We roll up on a house, beautiful home. And I say, man, I really like this house. And I say, Gary, does that roof look old? And you say, yeah, it does. What are our options there?
Our options are when we write the contract to ask the seller to replace the roof as part of the contract. The seller can say no. And if they do, then you're aware that they're going to say no.
Yep.
And if you still proceed with the contract and you get to the home inspection,
they're probably not fixing it.
But too often the agents don't evaluate the home properly. You get to the home inspection and there's $15,000 worth of work and the buyer's floored. Now, yes, maybe they can get out of the contract, but that's really not the entire point. They spent money they can't get back.
And time.
Yeah.
Because they've also taken that seller off the market, but they've also sidelined themselves for a week, 2 weeks.
The interest rates might have gone up. They might have lost a lock. A lot of things can happen in that time frame. So really what we're doing is, we're trying to make everybody more aware of what the house is before they write the offer. And that's where the checklist comes in handy because, and the other part of it is, if a house needs that much work and the seller won't fix it, who's going to fix it? Okay. The average home buyer lives in a house for 7 years. That's the National Association of Realtor numbers. Okay. So if you're a buyer buying a house and the roof's got to be replaced, the appliances got to be replaced, the HVAC's got to be replaced, and you go ahead with the purchase, and let's say they're not at the end, but they're near the end. By the time you sell, you're going to have to fix all those items to sell your house. Where's the money going to come from?
Yeah.
Let's run some quick numbers. May we?
We may.
It's your show. All right. So
it's your building.
It's my building. No, true. Good. Well, I rent it in sublease.
Yeah.
All right. So I just ran a little quick sheet for the podcast here on the average 2-story colonial, 2,400 square foot.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to back you up real quick before and I want to get into that. Talk to me. What do we have on the list? What are those items that you're actually looking at and taking into account when we're kind of evaluating a home before we write a contract?
Well, we're looking at items like the roof. A sound roof is a sound house. You can't live in a house with a bad roof. Okay. We're looking at siding. Is it masonite siding? Is it vinyl? If it's masonite, does it need to be fixed? Masonite had a lot of problems. Windows. Are the windows old? Do they need to be replaced? Are there many broken seals? A thermal paint insulated window has it's got two pieces of glass with like argon gas in between, and it's for insulating purposes. If the seal breaks, it doesn't have the insulating value. Look at trim around windows and doors. Is it rotted? It's so easy to see that stuff. You don't need to be a licensed home inspector to see it. The heating cooling system, the upper or the lower level, water heaters.
Gary, homes have 2 different systems?
They do, oftentimes 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So just sold a house that had a mini split, which is kind of cool. And it's just a single unit that heats and cools. Dishwashers, stoves, ovens, microwaves, kitchen cabinets, countertops, master bath, other baths, carpet, hardwood floors, tile, vinyl flooring, paint, electrical, plumbing issues, deck. And this is just a short list, and it's just to kind of get you fixated on, okay, what are we looking at? It's not everything in the house, but if you go through this list and you figure out, wow, of these 22 items, I've got 9 that need to be addressed. And if that seller's not going to fix those 9, where's that money going to come from?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this checklist is so relevant. I love using it as an agent, but I also like to get this in hand of our clients. Myself working with a lot of younger buyers, if you haven't owned a home before, you're going to make most likely a strictly emotional decision. You're going to fall in love with I always joke around, you're going to fall in love with a chandelier when that is one component of the house. I mean, you got to look through all these other things. You really got to, and you might still decide to proceed forward with the house, but you've got to count the cost of what these things are going to take to address. And I feel like you see it with buyers that maybe this is their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th home. They kind of get that, like, okay, these are things that need to be replaced, and they know, they know to look for these things a little bit more. But this is a good little checklist just to, things maybe you've forgotten about or just to run through that list when you're evaluating a home.
Absolutely. It's funny. I get to a lot of seller appointments for listing, and I go through pretty much the same thing with sellers too, in helping them get their house prepared for the market. Yep. It's amazing how many times, those were issues when we bought it. Why didn't you fix it? Well, we didn't have the money.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, what's the definition of insanity? making the same mistake over and over again.
Yeah.
Don't be an insane buyer. That's be a smart buyer. So
and Gary, talk to me. Why is this relevant for people really to count these costs, even if they can't? Let's say we can't get a seller to pay for it. Why do they need to take these things into consideration?
well, let me answer your question with a question.
Oh boy, I got to pay attention.
What is the cost? What's the true cost of a house?
True cost of a house. I guess what you have to pay for it every single year.
That is, you know what? Not many people could have got that. It's your acquisition cost, or what you paid for it.
We didn't even practice that.
We didn't practice that. So, but it's what you paid for it, plus it's what you put in that house every single year.
Yeah.
And that's a great segue into this next one, boy. You're pretty smart. You must have seen this podcast before. So
yeah, a couple times. I was trained by a good master. Yeah.
Oh, Obi-Wan. So what we're segueing into is that if you're looking at a home and the home needs a lot of work and the seller's not going to fix it, and you're buying a house with an FHA mortgage, which means 3.5% down, so a $200,000 house would be a $7,000 down payment, but you're buying a house that maybe needs $24,000 worth of work, you're not going to have the equity in your house for an equity line for years to come.
Yeah.
If you could borrow the money now to buy a better house, or better yet, interest rates are pretty affordable. It's amazing. Let's run through some numbers, maybe.
Yeah, we will.
So, trivia question, Chris, and you can use my notes.
Oh boy.
By the way, my notes are in 16-point font. His are in 11-point font. So,
because you didn't want to wear the glasses.
I don't want to wear the glasses. I was already going to get enough dinosaur jokes from you guys, so I didn't want to go back to the crustacean age.
I'll be feeling that in my fee statement. So
Yes,
something tells me that might be a little higher this month.
It is Christmas. I mean, happy holidays.
Yeah.
So if you were to borrow $10,000 extra at a 4% interest rate, what would that add to your monthly mortgage and principal and interest?
Let me do the quick calculations. That'd be an extra $48 a month.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. How about $20,000?
I've got $95,000 or $95 on my sheet here.
It's amazing when you have the notes in front of you. How accurate you are.
The math is great.
So $30,000 is $143, and additional $40 is $191.
Yep.
So think about your life every month. So to spend an additional $30,000 for a house,
Yep.
is $143 in principal and interest. A little bit more property taxes, but not much. How can you economize to save $143 a month in your monthly budget? And don't say take your wife's car away. So
just cut out food.
Cut out food.
Rewear underwear. Turn the diapers inside out.
Thank good. There's no smell on these podcasts.
Yeah.
So well, for most people, and everybody's budget's different, obviously, but $143 is not overly difficult to economize in your budget every month. Okay, maybe it means that you don't eat out as much, and you've just bought a house, so it's fun to stay home and eat and cook on the grill.
Yep.
Maybe you take a small part-time job, and a really small part-time job. I remember working with a client one time, and he didn't want to go up in price, and everything that he liked he hated, and he had a job that worked 4 days a week. I said, why don't you work, a part-time job that works you 4 hours, maybe 4 more days a month? And he's like, oh wow, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So if you just go up in price a little bit.
Gary Duda put America back to work.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So let's run through the scenario of that 2,400 square foot house.
Let's do it.
Let's take the example of a 2,400 square foot colonial that somebody might be looking to buy.
It's pretty run of the mill type.
Pretty run of the mill. Let's say it needs a new roof. That's $6,500. Okay. Well, you can go more if you want to do tile, or if you want to do Italian tile or whatever. But let's just stay with normal shingles.
You're building a Spanish villa.
Yes, a Spanish villa. Si, senor. A new single zone heating and cooling system, $5,500 to replace.
Yeah.
A new water heater, $1,000. I used to say new hot water heater, but then a home warranty rep reminded me that what other type of water would you have? So
do you need a cold water cooler as well?
Yeah, exactly. So and then new car. Let's say the house needs.
They're European.
They're European.
They're coming to make a big splash in the U.S.
Oh man. So new carpet in the house, even though that's not a defect, if a house needs it, that's $3,500. Replacement windows, maybe $4,500, and then a new kitchen appliances, $3,500. So all those come up to $24,500. So if you're looking at a home and it needs that much work,
yeah,
Where are you going to come up with that? You just put 3.5% down.
Where's that money coming from?
If it's coming from mom and dad, borrow it up front and buy a nicer house.
Yeah.
If it's coming from, so your options are, what do? Do you buy that house and then try to struggle to find that money? You're not going to do an equity line because you don't have any equity yet.
Yep. Especially if you're not putting much down.
Exactly. And you can go with a VHDA or USDA or VA loan with 0% down. Or maybe you look for a more expensive house and go up in price a little bit.
Yeah.
Or you buy new construction. Why does new construction sell so well?
Because you don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything. Exactly right.
It's the easy option.
If you live there for 7 years, the most you're going to be doing is painting and maybe a microwave that goes bad, because that's the most used appliance in most people's kitchen. And a microwave is only $350. So,
that's a fancy microwave for $350. Is that what they cost these days?
They do cost that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And they heat water and everything. It's so cool. So
with the microwaves.
with the microwaves,
Gary, how do microwaves work?
it's magic. Okay, so there's there's this uranium that sits in there and it heats up the. You saw The Martian with Matt Damon.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
heated himself down. Anyway, we digress. So, what's your other option? You either buy the house, borrow money that you don't have, you buy a more expensive house, or new construction, or you wait and you save until you have the money to get into a house.
Yeah, well, and I want to jump into talking about the benefits of new construction versus a resale home, and we're fans of resale homes, but obviously there are some advantages. But the thing I would encourage people to think about too, you talked about where's the money going to come from, but it's also where's the time going to come from if you're going to be the one doing the work, and even if you're not going to be the one doing the work, do you want to deal with the hassle of living in a home that's being worked on, whether you're doing the work or you're having a contractor? Those are all factors to consider. Do you want to live on a construction site, a project for the next 2 years of your life? I mean, I don't know about you. I deal with so many clients that have lived in a few homes. I have some right now that are buying new construction. They're like, we just don't want to deal with it anymore. Like, we've done the weekend warrior thing where we're working on the house, every weekend, and man, they finish it up. It's so beautiful, but they're like, we just don't want to deal with the headache anymore. We want to go have fun on the weekend. So,
there's one certainty in real estate that if you have a resale on the market for $300,000, and I'm just using examples of price, and within $50,000, there's new construction in the same or similar school districts, you're going to sit on that resale unless you are perfect. Because you might even fix the house up so everything's updated, but new construction always has that bell and whistle. Yep. It's got the new patios, it's got the new floor plans, 9-foot ceilings, 10-foot ceilings, new craftsman style. So new construction's powerful, and if you can get it, people like it. But you can't always get it because the price of land. New construction is really expensive, particularly in Central Virginia. And so if resales are your only option, you're looking for something that's been fixed up.
Yeah. So let's go there. I mean, talk to me about new construction. Why should somebody consider it? When would they consider it? And what are the advantages maybe of purchasing new construction versus a resale home?
Well, for new construction, you've got to have the time. And unless there's a spec, and a spec is a home that a builder would build anticipating that a ready buyer would come along at the end. But part of the reason people buy new is they can pick everything they want. But you got to have time. It takes typically 6 to 8 months for most builders to build a house. Then the other huge advantage for new construction, the modifications that you can make, your color selection, your appliance selection, your cabinet selection. You really get everything you want. And then you also have that knowledge that when you get in that house, that one, you get a 1-year builder warranty, which is always the case. It's a law in Virginia. But then all your parts, your heating, cooling systems, your windows, they all have their own warranties on the parts.
From the manufacturer.
So, from the manufacturer. So there's that peace of mind. So if you live there for 7 years, it's unlikely you're going to be fixing much. And if something does go wrong, you're probably going to have a parts warranty on it.
So does that mean that I can maybe afford to pay a little bit more for new construction?
You can pay a little bit more because
it's a good softball of a question.
Well, you can go, and so like we showed you here on that same house, $24,000 is just those items that we talked about before. But typically, I see in new construction, people will go again depending on the price level, but in a $300,000-$400,000 price point, people will jump up easily to $50,000, $60,000 more just to get new. And you get to the higher price point, $700,000-$800,000, people go much more higher to get new.
A lot more discretionary income.
A lot more discretionary income, and and the more money you have, the more ways you find to spend it. So
yeah, absolutely. And real quick, when does it not make sense to buy new construction, or maybe when should you avoid that new construction community? Maybe if you're looking to move in the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's a great question. If you're buying in a brand new community and you're not going to be there very long, maybe 2 or 3 years, and in 2 or 3 years they're still going to be building, that's maybe not the place you want to go, because that builder every year they're going to raise prices, but they're going to throw in more features.
Yeah.
I've never seen a neighborhood where the builders don't have a plan to, hey, we're going to roll out this feature now. So in section 2, maybe we're going to have walk-up basements, or in section 2, we're going to go to a different style. So if you're going to move in the very short term, new construction's can be a little bit risky.
Yeah, because if you need to sell, you're going to get your backside handed to you. You're probably losing money.
Well, you're going to be competing against the builder at that point.
Yeah.
And that builder...
in the same community.
Not
like different community, different amount. Like the same, I can buy the same house, but brand new.
And now they're offering a free Florida room if you buy before December 31st.
Yeah.
So not a good way to do it. But, but new construction, also you have to have the time. If you don't have the time to wait, then a resale is your better option. A lot of people on relocation, when they're coming in town, they got to have a house right now.
What do you say is typical delivery time for most builders?
6 to 8 months, So, and it can be longer, but not usually, when you consider 30 to 45 days just to get a permit, and then all the time it takes to get the permit ready. And then, you've got that actual construction time. So when I say 6 to 8 months, it's not all construction time, but there's a lot of planning and permitting time frame that has to happen there as well. Yeah,
a lot of back end work that needs to be done. Okay, a lot of cool info, Gary. Now we're going to jump to the fire round. So the fire round is where we get, we usually pick 5 questions that we've gotten from our social media feeds. Where we're going to, Facebook and Instagram, we're going to ping you with those. We're just going to do rapid response.
Okay.
But my main man, Daniel, is going to read off the questions that we got from our social feed.
Let me get in the zone first, okay? All right, I'm there. All right, fire away.
All right, so now we're going to cut to the fire round. Daniel's going to ask us the questions. Daniel, lay them on us, my friend.
All right, so Gary, what's the worst experience you had early on when you were selling a home?
Worst experience when I was selling a home? I assume you mean working with a buyer or working as a listing agent?
Either one. Let's go with
let's go with buyer, since this is a buyer.
Yeah, let's do that.
Podcast.
All right. This is bad. Okay. And it was my bad. And I didn't have myself to train myself. And if I had me to train me, it would never happen. So wrote the contract, got to closing, and the refrigerator's gone. Okay, it doesn't sound that bad, but there was a crappy little refrigerator. Can I say crappy on a podcast?
Yeah, on this one.
All right. So it was a crappy refrigerator, and who would have wanted it? My buyers wanted it, and so they said, well, it said in MLS that it was going to stay, and they're right. But the little known fact is, it doesn't matter what MLS says; it matters what your contract says. So that was kind of my mess up. And so that little refrigerator they probably could have gotten for $50 on Craigslist ended up costing me $1,500 because
for a brand new one.
Yep. And they still didn't. They were still mad. So I moved on from that one. I've never again made that mistake.
I feel like everybody makes that mistake once.
Yeah, it's one of those things you
only make it once. I've bought some drapes before.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I've removed paint cans before, 27 paint cans because the sellers left it. I was a listing agent. The sellers left it behind, thinking the buyers would want them. The buyers didn't want them.
Nice.
And I won't do that again.
Yeah. So, absolutely. Take your paint cans, folks.
Yes. Yeah. Take them with you.
Spade and neuter your dogs and take your paint cans when you sell your house.
Exactly. In that order.
All right. So the next one is another throwback. Tell me about your first experience as a buyer's agent.
My first experience as a buyer's agent.
Oh, man.
I wish you guys had that little time warp thing so it would go above my head as I'm thinking back in time. It would give me time to think.
So God created the earth and the seas.
Yes. My first experience with a buyer's agent. This actually is a very good one.
You were helping Adam and Eve. They had just taken a bite of the apple, and now they needed to find somewhere else to go.
I'm working with a very nice lady who was looking at purchasing a townhouse, and it was actually an FHA assumption, which they exist.
They don't have much.
And I'm not going to talk about it because it would be like 3 hours of podcasting.
Sure.
And so she wanted to buy this townhouse, and super nice lady. And the townhouse was like going to be ground zero for John Rolfe Parkway. And Laura, if you're watching this, I told you, and you still loved me. So I said, you can't buy this. It's too close to the road, the proposed road. So we went down to the county, and she talked to the county planners, and she said, I like it, and I'm okay where the road is. It's one of those situations that, I did the right thing by talking to her about it. But I was so new, everything was new. And then I remember she was asking me, she had a delayed closing. She was asking me, she was gonna get some money out of her stock. And I said, well, if you got the money now, don't wait, because if it goes down, you'll regret it. And so she got the money out, and then she's at some dinner party, and my boss, Dick Nelms, who is a super, super nice guy, Bowers Nelms in Farmville, he was my broker. She's with Dick, and she says,
which is now Long and Foster.
No, Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So anyways, she said, yeah, Gary gave me great stock advice. And I could just see his face, but what are my agents doing giving stock advice? And she explained it, and he came back and told me the story, so it was kind of funny. But yeah, that was my first experience as a buyer's agent. And so I would show her homes on my horse. I had a buggy behind that we pulled her around in. So
and she closed on the house and then got hit by a car in her driving room the next day.
I know. Well, she had that forever, and she loved it. So it was a good purchase for her. But it's just one of those things that you can never be too transparent with a client. Yep. Everything that was a concern to me, I expressed to her, and fortunately, that turned into a great situation.
Yeah, cool.
All right, so if I have two in a row, you got more?
Yeah. So our next one is,
hit me with your best shot. All right.
what are some pitfalls and traps that, if you're a first-time home buyer, you need to avoid?
Pitfalls and traps if you're a first-time home buyer. Well, the first pitfall is don't think that the listing agent represents you. They don't. Sellers have listing agents. They represent them legally in the state of Virginia. If you think as a buyer that they're going to represent you, you're wrong. If they say, hey, I can represent you both as a dual agent, they're still wrong. There is dual agency, which is buyer and seller under one agent, but you can't represent anybody. So when you're representing somebody as a dual agent, you can't give them advice on price, home inspections, or there's no advice whatsoever.
You've essentially agreed to be a neutral party.
That's right. You've agreed to be a facilitator, basically. So that's a big pitfall for buyers. They walk into an open house and they start chit-chatting with a listing agent, telling them their whole life story. That's not their agent, okay? Get yourself a buyer's agent. Buyer's agents' commissions are paid through the MLS, so it's not coming directly out of your pocket. It's part of the sales price of the house. Get yourself a buyer's agent. Have your own representation. Okay? It is worth it. I mean, that's probably the biggest pitfall I can see a buyer stepping into is not having an agent. Yep. And then, like we talked about earlier, buying a house that just got too much work that they should have just walked away from. And then, don't fall in love, that quickly with a house until you had the home inspection and you're done. Then fall in love. Okay.
Yeah. Easier said than done.
It is. I mean, your wife fell in love after she vetted you out.
Yeah.
So,
well, she fell in love the first date, and that turned out to be a poor decision on her part. We've corrected it since then, but
those two beautiful girls help rectify a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I love you, sweetheart.
I love you too. So, can I say hi to my family?
Yeah, sure.
Hey guys, I don't know if you're watching this podcast or will ever watch it. They should, but
in case you don't get enough advice at home,
my mom will watch it.
Yeah, very good.
I find out everything through social media from my mom. In fact, I jokingly say when she passes away, she'll do a post on social media that I'll find out about.
Yeah, Mrs. Duda, good to see you.
Yeah.
All right. So my fourth question is new or used? Sorry, I guess not new or used, but newer renovations. Which one is a better investment for somebody who's buying a home?
All right. So when you're, I like to.
Do you mean where they should put the money?
Yeah. So if I have, let's say, $500,000 to put into a home, should I renovate an old home and make it gorgeous, or should I buy a brand new construction home?
That's a big renovation budget.
That is big.
Yeah. Crazy. Let's say I have billions of dollars and I'm throwing 500,000 at something.
Call me.
Then call me if he doesn't answer on half a ring.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah.
We'll just put my phone number plastered over Gary's face with the graphics.
So you'll probably hack my computer, put a 40 email address to yours, right?
Right. That's right.
tough question, because if you have that much money, you're probably going to want to go build, unless you go like into the fan and you renovate something historical. Where I thought the question was going, and I'd like to answer, if I may.
I'm going to reword this. More value to buy a new home or to renovate an old home?
More, a tough question. Again, if you can find the old home, if you can find the new home in the area that you want to be, that's one thing. But like I live in a community that you can't build in now, but there's mature trees. It's an established area, so there's value in buying the resale. But typically, most people will go new if they can get it in a similar area. Now, where I thought the question was going, though, was where do you put your money in renovations? What's first? And I always like to say, would you feed your kids dessert before dinner? So by saying that, if you have a house that needs a roof and needs a new HVAC system, don't put granite in it. Take care of the basics. And
eat your damn vegetables.
Yeah, eat your damn vegetables. Exactly right. But put the money in the things that make your house safe and sound first, okay? So anybody can go do granite after the fact, but if the roof needs it, if it needs new HVAC, new water heater, you fix the mechanical things first, and then you work into the cosmetic items. Yeah. Somebody can live in a house with a laminate countertop, but they're not going to live in a house very long for a roof that needs to be replaced.
Yeah. Yeah. And your wife's not going to be happy when the HVAC goes out in
No,
August.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Mine was 8 months pregnant when ours went out. She was not a happy camper.
Well, she married you. She wasn't happy to begin with, was she?
No, this is true.
Okay, all right.
This is true.
But she's happy now, as we mentioned.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so the last question, and this is one I got from my super secret social feed. Gary, can you tell me your opinion on electronic lawnmowers?
My opinion on electronic lawnmowers, I think they're awesome. You almost started, a little known fact, Gary almost started, and maybe you're still thinking about it, to starting a distributorship for electronic lawnmowers, right? It's still on our radar, not for me to do, but for me to fund. But yeah, so they've got they're awesome. I mean, I've got one.
Lawnmower venture capitalist.
Yeah, I've got one in my backyard, and it cuts the yard, and we have to open the gate for it and cut the front. Just amazing. I've got an app on my phone where I can see where it's at. It's got the GPS. Well, even more amazing than that, I saw a prototype online the other day on Facebook for an automatic dog pooper picker-upper.
Oh, nice.
That is the let me tell you.
Is it just the electronic lawnmower that just chops it all up?
Well, it smushes it down.
Yeah.
So. No, it sniffs it out, bags it. Apparently, it's not for sale yet, but what a great idea.
I mean, so when Tesla starts making their first lawnmower, you're going to be right in line for one.
You bet.
Probably going to be competing, the Husqvarna competition for Tesla. You should pitch that to Elon Musk. We should call him right now.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. Well, Gary, it's been a blast having you on the podcast. I appreciate you coming out. I've been contractually obligated to say that I was happy thank you for being here today. This is the best podcast I have ever done, and you are my hero and role model, and I have a major man crush on you, is what I was obligated to say.
That's what happens when I write talking points.
Now that I've fulfilled that contractual obligation, we can end this podcast.
Can I pitch something?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right.
So, Gary, if people want to get more of this knowledge, if they're thinking about buying a home, maybe they're kind of in the early stages, or if they want to get in touch with you, I mean, obviously they should just call me, but where can they come get more of this valuable information?
All right. So 2 things. I am starting on January 25th. It's a Saturday at the Virginia Press Association. We're teaching the first Live the Dream 101 class, Live the Dream 101. And that's all about buying that, not that first house, but home buying, talking about the things we talked about today, what to look out for in a house, talking about contracts, At the class, I'm going to have my agents, including you, I hope you can be there, who have been through the training that's required to work with buyers. I'm going to have them there, and our mortgage person, so that if people want to talk to a live agent, they can be there. Also, if you go online to livethedream101.com, I've got the site set up there. If you just want to glean the knowledge from it, you can go. There's the FAQ section that I'm working on. It's got a lot of questions up there. Probably put some more on it from things we talked about today. And it's got the registration link for the class. But that's going to be Saturday, January 25th at the Virginia Press Association out here on Knuckles Road.
And Daniel will put all that info in the graphics and the in the video.
He's pretty good. You know that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So.
Very good. Gary, thank you for being on the podcast, my friend.
Wow. I survived podcast. Wow. Amazing. Thank you guys. This is fun. I appreciate it.
That was another episode of the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show, and we'll see you on the next time.
Thanks for joining us for the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, please contact Chris Elliott at chris@chriselliottrealestate.com or by phone at 804-980-1898. And please join us again next time for the Chris Elliott Real Estate Show.